Hello, my name is Camille Wiseman, and today I will be giving a speech on nonverbal communication, specifically talking about facial expressions. Dale Carnegie, a beloved American writer and popular lecturer in the 1900s, once stated, "The expression a woman wears on her face is far more important than the clothes that she wears on her back." I find this statement to be very, very true, in that facial expressions have a very unique way of embellishing a public speaker and making what they have to say very enticing. Today, I want to be talking about how emotions are what we kind of use as a baseline to give a very enticing speech. And emotions can be expressed through your facial expressions. So today I'm going to be going over 2 ways I believe emotions can be very beneficial to the speaker, and then we'll be going over a couple emotions I think that every public speaker can use to help embellish the way they speak. So the first would be that emotions transcend content. I believe that emotions transcend content because, for example, yesterday I was watching a TED Talk on this man who actually had both of his legs amputated. He had this amazing story. He is an engineer, and he started explaining the mathematics, the engineer terminology, the physics that go along with how he created a new bionic legs for himself. And I had no idea about the specifics on how he created these bionic legs. But the way that he talked about them and he used his facial expressions really drew me into what he had to say, and I watched the entire video, even though I didn't know half of what he was actually talking about. The second would be that emotions lead to intentional listeners. I definitely find this to be true. When, for example, you give a personal story, that allows an audience to make a connection with you. So by using emotions of sadness, by using emotions of happiness, by using emotions of pain, these are things that every human being can relate to. So first, emotions do transcend any content. And second, emotions lead to intentional listeners. When the bionic-legged man started talking about his story and how he actually used to climb Mount Everest, and both of his legs were amputated because he had frostbite, and he felt an emotional loss when that had happened. And as soon as he started talking in that sort of way, I immediately connected with him because I think everyone has experienced some sort of loss in their own personal way. So the first expression I think that we should talk about today is happiness. Now, happiness is something that, or is an emotion that everyone loves. And actually, Psychology Today stated in 2017 that happiness is the easiest identifiable emotion across the board. So across all cultures, happiness is something that can be expressed in very similar ways. And here I give a couple examples of how basically the anatomy of happiness works. So the anatomy of happiness is, of course, using your mouth. That's a very common key point to happiness when someone is looking at you. Visually, the corner of your lips draw backward and upward and give you a smile. So you're exposing your teeth. Another thing that you're doing is you're showing wrinkles on the side of your eyes. And really true happiness, when you're experiencing it, is where your whole face kind of uplifts. But if you're experiencing some sort of fake happiness while giving a speech and you're smiling like this, you may be using your mouth, but you're not using your entire face like this. So that's happiness. The second emotion, or facial expression, of course, this is happiness. Reese Witherspoon expressing her happiness. Now, who wouldn't want to listen to her have to say something? The second emotion is that of sadness. Now, sadness is a little tricky because I don't think it is valuable to have an entire speech using the facial expressions of sadness like this. No one wants to be sad throughout your entire speech. However, I think that sadness can be beneficial in using it to explain certain stories, your personal story, your friend's story, news around the world, how it makes you feel when you bring up these topics and you talk about them and you show on your face the sadness you feel when you say them. It allows an amazing connection with the audience as well. So the anatomy of the expression of sadness is, of course, frowning eyebrows, kind of like upward like this. You're going to have a frowning mouth, maybe even like a pouted lip, any depression of your face, essentially. Now, we're not all going to look like this, hopefully not through our entire speech, but this is an example of true sadness. However, like I said, sadness can be used through personal stories and maybe short snippets of your speech and how something made you feel, but not something to be dragged on throughout your entire speech. Now, we're going to anger. This is an emotion I wanted to bring up because I feel like some people think it's important to bring out the anger and true emotions you have on a topic. I would beg to differ. I think that if you bring up anger in your speech, it probably wouldn't want to make audience listen to you. You may be passionate about something, but people don't really want to look at this face yelling at them. Now, the expressions used for anger are, of course, in that photo. Eyebrows basically come together, you have pursed lips, your nose crinkles, and your mouths are very pierced and narrowed. So this is an example of a facial expression you wouldn't want to use while you speak. Now, coming to the close, I think a secret formula for successful speaking is just to know what you're passionate about. And actually, this first point here is an example from one of the Forbes directors of Forbes magazine. They encouraged speakers and entrepreneurs alike to get to know themselves and know what they were passionate about. They said to embrace it and amplify it. I love that statement. I think it's fabulous. Getting to know yourself is important because then you know what you love and what you're passionate about. And then when you embrace it and apply it to your life, it becomes a part of who you are, and you amplify it by talking about it in your speech when you have opportunities, whether that be sitting amongst friends or maybe an opportunity in front of a classroom to talk about something that you love. For me, I love baking. For me, I love anything that has to do with medicine because I want to go into a physician assistant school or even nursing school. So somewhere in the medical field, I love talking about those sort of stories. Another part of the secret formula to public speaking and using your facial expressions, the benefit would be that you connect with people on topics that you love. So you need to choose topics that you love and enjoy. Like the bionic-legged man, for example, he went through a very traumatic season in his life, but he turned it around for the better. And the story he had to tell was heart-wrenching and hard, but to see him come out of that was a beautiful story, and I really enjoyed listening to it. And I was able to connect with him. So that leaves me to my works cited page. These are the sources I used for my speech today. But I hope this leaves you with a clearer picture of some facial expressions you can use. Don't use anger or sadness. I would definitely try to connect with people on a more positive note that really draws people in. And I hope that this video helps you understand a little bit better how facial expressions can definitely impact your speech and embellish your speech